have September 16th through 20th. Due this week in class is Multimedia Assignment 1.4 and In-Class Activity 1.4. This week's objectives. I can identify the effect race has on the immigrant experience. I can identify words and pictures that evoke emotions so that I can use words and pictures to evoke emotion in my narrative, and I can decide whether or not an issue is about immigration or race. I know I'm successful when I can see the distinction between the issues around immigration versus race, and I can identify the words that cause emotion to use them in my own writing. So today we're going to try something different. We're going to go over the content, but we're going to go over the content with students' interpretation of other students. So in this lesson, you will read an article about Hurricane Dorian and President Trump's response to the environmental refugees, examine a picture that was published in June, and watch a short video on the American teenager who is detained even though he was an American citizen. And lastly, you will make a guess on why we are in an immigrant crisis based on the data presented. So first, we have the article about Hurricane Dorian, and the prompt was to choose 3 or 4 words in this post or video and tell me what the 3 or 4 words were that you chose and what feelings or emotions did those 3 or 4 words that you chose invoke. So some things that were interesting were
almost every comment mentioned Trump's doubts towards the refugees, and another interesting trend was that bad people was another negative trend that originated from Trump's speech. And many people mentioned how he turned away the refugees that came on the boat recently from the Bahamas.
So these words were meant to cause evoke emotion. So he referred to them as many people said sick, inhuman, height of cruelty, disappointed. These were all emotions that were used, but very bad people. So mind you, he's never met any of them, but he's very happy to say they're very bad people. Most human beings understand if you haven't met somebody, you can't make that judgment call. On the second one we have was a photo. This was published in June of this year. What do you think was the message of this photo? What emotions does it invoke? Do you think this is more powerful than the narratives we've had in other content lessons?
A lot of the students agreed that looking at this picture made them invoke with anger and sad emotions by seeing this picture, and they all agreed on saying that it was showing their struggle on what it was like to get as far as they did and then to be killed off for it. They all talk about all the things that they have to encounter to get as far as they do, and some of them don't even make it, and it makes them all angry. And they talk about how seeing it visually is different from looking at it from just through words and numbers, that it makes it all the more real and visual.
Thank you. Next we have the video. In this video, you're going to answer, how do you think it's possible for an American teen to be detained illegally? What factors of this teen's identity do you think played a role in him being incarcerated? And give a reason that supports your theory, keeping in mind that our objective is to identify the effect race has on the immigrant experience, and in this case, the American experience.
Many of the comments said how it had a lot to do with racial profiling and stereotypes. The teenage boy, Francisco, spoke Spanish and looked Latino, so the government officials targeted him and labeled him as not being a citizen. Some theories was that perhaps they accused him because people sometimes fake their social security as well as documents, which was the case that the officials thought that he did as well. And it's unfair since he was legal and is legal. And yeah, they just classified him as a criminal, or as being not from here, which wasn't right.
So the point of that article is there's a certain color of the people that are being held in these camps. And as we've studied in our first unit and our first content series, you saw all the people that came from all these various places around the globe. You saw their influx according to the years, according to policies that happened. But currently in 2019, there is one color that is being held behind bars. And this teen was targeted not because immigrants are just brown or from Latin America, but because this is more about race than it is about immigration. And for the last one, so this is a chart that shows how immigration has gone down. Right now, we have this booming thing that we like to talk about. This immigration crisis is upon us, but you can see the numbers have dwindled considerably since 2000. So since 2000, there was approximately 1.6, almost 7 million people entering the US. That's dwindled down to almost 400,000. So that's about a quarter, a sixth of 20% of what normally is going on. And so you guys had some interesting responses to this one. The reason why immigration rates have dropped is because everything that's going on in America is causing people to not want to come here, which is true. That definitely can be it, but it's been happening there was a big drop in 2002. I really want to highlight this one comment. Immigration rates have dropped because of the policies of the White House as well as economic reason. This student actually linked us to another chart that shows how many people are returning. So the numbers of returning is actually correlating to the number of people that are not coming to the States. A lot of people post 9/11 trauma made the country stricter on immigration policies. There was also a point brought up that this is being played by the media, that the media is causing this immigrant crisis when the numbers don't prove it, that words that our president is using, like criminals, bad people, immigrant crisis, all these words are evoking emotions for people to react and for people to vote for policies that aren't necessarily reflective of how things are. So I hope you got a chance to look over these and see your classmates' comments because they have some really thoughtful ideas. And your in-class activity this week is for you to find 3 things that ways that we can help, right? Because there's things to study, these things are great, but to actually do something about it is different. This goes back to our in-class project. So I had 2 links here. You have to comment on how, where, when, and what. So these are ways that people can get involved with the immigrant crisis. How would be, do they donate money? Can they sign a petition? Is there a march going on? Where? Is there a website? Is there a place that's collecting donation? Is a march going to happen somewhere? When? Can they donate anytime? Is there a proposition coming up? And what? And all of these will be posted for everybody to see as resources so you can be empowered as students. Thanks for listening.